Hello, my name is Squid, and today I'm going to be showing you how to move your model automatically every time you switch scenes in OBS using Streamer.bot. This is configurable on a per model basis, so if you have a lot of models or get a new one in the future, you don't have to change anything in Streamer.bot. You simply create an expression in VTube Studio for the model's position that you want to move to, and that's it. The tutorial does have a lot of information in it, and it is a bit fast-paced, so there are chapter markers in the description below for you to get to easily. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. If you have any ideas for things you'd like to see made possible using Streamer.bot, please let me know. And now, on with the tutorial. In order to ensure that your model that's currently loaded is always in the right position for the scene that you're currently using inside of OBS, even when your model switches or when you switch scenes in OBS, we need to do a couple setup things inside of Streamer.bot. First and foremost, we need to make sure that we have VTube Studio and OBS Studio connected. You don't have to use OBS Studio. You can use Streamlabs Desktop or Meld Studio, I believe also supports it. In this tutorial though, we're gonna go over OBS Studio. The first thing we wanna do is create an action inside of Streamer.bot. So in the left-hand sidebar, under Actions and Queues, go ahead and click on Actions, then right-click a blank space here, and then click on Add. We're going to call this Move Model into Position. Make sure that the action is going to be enabled, and the rest we can leave as default, but feel free to change these if you're doing a more advanced setup inside of Streamer.bot. Go ahead and click on OK. And now you can see we actually have an action here listed. When we click on the action, we can see we're editing the triggers and the sub actions for this action. The triggers are things that cause this to run, and the sub actions are what you want to run when these events happen. In our case, we want to make sure that this runs when we change scenes in OBS or when a new model is loaded. That way the new model will automatically move to where we need it to be for the scene that we have selected in OBS. So under triggers in the search bar, go ahead and just type scene changed or just scene. And you'll see these are, again, Meld Studio, OBS Studio, and Streamlabs Desktop. These are the ones that support the scene changed. So in our case, we're going to choose OBS Studio, scene changed. For me, I'm going to change the connection to specifically be OBS in case we do add a second streaming application in the future. We only want this to happen for OBS. You can leave it as any if you don't think you're ever going to change. The scene name, we're going to leave blank. That's going to mean that this is going to trigger on every scene change, regardless of the name of the scene. And we'll care about the name of the scenes later. Go ahead and click on OK. And then another trigger we're going to do is model loaded, and you'll see it's integrations VTube Studio model loaded. Go ahead and click on that, and we're going to leave the drop down for model as any. If you're ever curious about the documentation for these triggers, you can go ahead and open up one of them, then click on the question mark icon in the top right, and that will open up the documentation for more information about each of the triggers, including the variables, which we will care about later. Now that we have the triggers loaded, we need to actually specify sub actions that we need it to do when these triggers go off. So the first sub action we want to do is to get current scene. And you can see again, Meld Studio, OBS Studio, and Streamlabs Desktop all support this. In our case, we're going to choose OBS Studio, get current scene. And then the connection, we're also going to make sure that we say OBS and then click on OK. If you didn't set anything specific for your OBS Studio trigger, you can leave it to the default, and that will be perfect. In this case, I like to be extra sure. After we have the get current scene set up, go ahead and actually open up VTube Studio model loaded trigger again. So you can do that by right-clicking and hitting edit trigger, or double-clicking the trigger also brings up this pop-up. Once you have the pop-up open, click on the question mark to bring up the documentation. And on the documentation page, you can actually see the variables. What we are interested in right now is model loaded. Anywhere on the documentation, you see something that looks like this, where it's % words %, and then a copy sign. You can click on that. Back in Streamer.bot, we can go ahead and click on OK. And then inside of the sub actions, we're going to search for if else, which is core logic if else. Once this is open, go ahead and paste what you copied from the documentation into the input field. The operation we're going to change to equals ignore case, and the value we're just going to put the word true. You can put lowercase, uppercase. Because we chose ignore case, it doesn't matter how you type it here. And then we'll click on OK. Now this adds three things under the sub actions. One's an if statement, and then these are what happens based on that if statement. So if the model loaded variable equals true, we will run the true result. So think of these as yes, no's. Does model loaded equal true? Yes. We're going to add something there. Go ahead and click on the true result 0. Then in the sub actions, you're going to search delay, which is core delay. And then inside of this text box you get here, we're going to put 2000. These are in milliseconds, so 1000 equals 1 second. Once you've put 2000, go ahead and click on OK. And that should automatically put it inside of the true result. If your streamer bot did not add the delay for 2000 milliseconds into the true result area, go ahead and drag the delay on top of where it says true result, and that will add it for you. The false result we don't care about because we only want to wait 2 additional seconds if the model loaded is true. The reason for this is because %model loaded % is only set for when we are triggered through VTube Studio model loaded. If this runs because we changed our scene in OBS, it won't have %model loaded %, so it'll just move on. It won't have a delay. To make this cleaner, we can go ahead and just click on this little down arrow next to the if statement to collapse that. Now, before we continue, similar to what we did for VTube Studio model loaded and loaded the documentation, we need to do the same thing for OBS Studio get current scene. Go ahead and double click or right click edit sub-action for OBS Studio get current scene, and then click on the question mark on the top right of the pop-up to bring up the documentation. This documentation is pretty straightforward. What we really care about here is if we scroll down to variables, we care about %current scene %. So go ahead and click on that. Back inside of Streamer.bot, go ahead and click on OK just to close that pop-up. In the sub-actions search bar, we're going to type switch, and we're going to choose core logic switch. The input, we're going to paste what we copied, %current scene %, and we can just go ahead and choose OK. If it didn't automatically put the switch statement underneath the if statement, you can always rearrange these as needed. So you can always move the switch statement if you need to. Once we have the switch statement added, make sure it's expanded so that we can see what's called the default case. For our first one, we're going to right click on switch %current scene %, and we're going to choose add case. In the pop-up that shows, go ahead and type into this lower box the name of our scene inside of OBS. So I'll open up OBS here, and we'll see I have 3 scenes listed. The first one being just chatting. So what I can do is I can either type just chatting, or I can right click the scene, go to rename, and then copy the text out, and then inside of Streamer.bot, right click into this field, paste, or I could just type it. Once you have the name of the scene filled in there, make sure to always click the add button. Once you click add, it should show up in the case values portion here, and this will show you all of the values that this case statement that we're editing will trigger on. So in this case, right now, when we click OK, we'll have a new case specifically just for just chatting, but we can add on to this in the future. You can also turn off case sensitivity if you'd like, just to make it easier so that you don't have to type J, C for just chatting or any other scenes that you add in the future. Once you've added the just chatting scene or whatever the name of your first scene you're going to try this on is, go ahead and click on OK. Now, one more thing we're going to add is another switch statement specifically for gaming right now. We're going to right click on switch, add case, and we're going to type gaming, click add, and I'm going to turn off case sensitivity. That way, lowercase gaming matches title case gaming, and then click on OK. So now we have 2 case statements here, just chatting and gaming. And then the default case runs if none of these match. Now, before we proceed, we need to do some work in VTube Studio. On our model that you would like to try this on first, go ahead and open up the settings for that model, and then go to hotkeys and expressions. Once you're here, go ahead and click on plus to add a new hotkey or expression, and we're going to give this a name. So I'm going to click on this pencil here, and you can see the cursor is now blinking in this field, and we could just type just chatting position, and then either hitting enter or clicking off of the box will save it. For hotkey action, we want to go ahead and click on the blue button that says hotkey action. And we're going to click move model and then select. Now, because it's just chatting, I need to make sure this is where I want to be for just chatting. So for now, I'll close this interface, and we'll also bring up OBS, and I will move VTube Studio off the screen really quick. That's where we want to be. Now, back in VTube Studio, we'll go back to our settings and we'll find our chatting position and make sure to click record position. Once you've recorded the position, you can add a key combination if you'd like, or you can leave it blank. I like to leave it blank. That way everything is through Streamer.bot. But if you have a key combination you like to hit to move your model to this position, these all work together. For my instance, because I'm not going to have a key combination, I'm actually going to turn this expression off. That way I don't accidentally toggle it, even if I did record a key combo, which I could do here by clicking on record and then just clicking on the button combination that I want to use and then clicking on done. And if I move my model, I'm pressing the middle mouse button right now, but my model's not moving. If I turn this on and then middle mouse button, it moved my model. So in my case, I'm going to turn this off. And just for the sake of my own mind, I'm going to clear the key combo. Now I'm going to collapse this inside of VTube Studio and we can actually go back into Streamer.bot. Go ahead and click on the switch %current scene % case statement just chatting. And then for our sub action, we're going to search. Now 2 options come up. One one is Integrations, VTube Studio, Trigger Hotkey, and the other is the same thing, but by name. Click on Trigger Hotkey by name. In the pop-up that shows, go ahead and type what you named this. For me, it was just chatting position. And we can actually click on the test button here if we want. We can go back into VTube Studio, and we can close out the UI, and we can move our model somewhere else just to test this. And then inside of Streamer.bot, if you click test, your model moves perfectly. So go ahead and click OK. Now, anytime we switch to just chatting scene in OBS, our model will automatically move to this position. So inside of OBS, we can see our model is perfect on the just chatting screen. Let's say we're gaming, and I'll move our model as if we were gaming down here. When I switch back to just chatting, our model automatically moves back to where we wanted it. And then we could do the same thing for gaming. So for now, I'll choose the gaming scene, and then I will place the model where I would want it for when we're gaming. And then back inside of VTube Studio, we'll go to settings, and again, under hotkey settings and expressions, we're going to add a new one. And this one we're going to call gaming position. These can be named whatever you want. The hotkey action is move model, select, record position. And then again, in my case, I'm going to turn this off, and then I'll collapse this again. And we can close this again in VTube Studio so that we're just looking at our model. Now, inside of Streamer.bot, we're going to click on the case gaming, left click on it. Then for the sub actions, go ahead and search. We're going to do the same thing. Trigger hotkey by name for VTube Studio. And this one we're going to type gaming position. And again, we can move our model, go back to Streamer.bot, click on test, just to make sure our model moves correctly, and then click OK. Now, anytime we switch to the gaming scene, our model will automatically move to the bottom right of our screen, or wherever you chose. So if we go just chatting, we move back, then we go back to gaming. Now, the beauty of this is when you have multiple models, say you let chat redeem changing a model. Well, inside of VTube Studio, load that model. So in this case, we'll go Akari, and we'll position Akari how we want for gaming. Okay? So we want Akari down here. Now, same as we did for the other model, go into settings, hotkey settings and expressions, add hotkey action, move model, record the position. I'm turning it off. You can leave it on. Hotkey name. This is the important part. Name this exactly the same that you did on the other model. And you want these names to match across all of your models. That way, you only set it up on the model in VTube Studio once. You don't need to change it anywhere else. Your model will automatically move as you switch between models. So in this case, we're going to name this gaming position, and then we'll minimize this and we'll go new. And we need to make a new one called just chatting position. And then we need to move the model into place. So if we go here, we go just chatting, and we'll hit record position and then minimize this. And we can close this now in VTube Studio. Now, if we go to gaming, the model moves down to the bottom right. If we go back to just chatting, the model moves back to our just chatting position. Now, if you remember, inside of Streamer.bot, we added this delay for if the model was loaded equal true. That is for when you're switching models inside of VTube Studio. If we change our model to one that we have set up, it waits 2 seconds and then moves our model into position, and in OBS looks perfect. And if we go to gaming, automatically move down to where we need it and then back to just chatting. The reason for that delay is if we were to right click delay for 2000 milliseconds and uncheck enabled, that way it doesn't do a delay. And then we change our model. You'll see we don't move automatically. When the model is sliding in, it's not movable, but is considered loaded. So the reason we have that delay, Streamer.bot can move the model to where it needs to be for that hotkey. So back in Streamer.bot, I'm going to re-enable delay for 2000 milliseconds. It doesn't need to be 2000 milliseconds. You can play with this timing. We're sticking with 2000 milliseconds to be safe. So now, even though my model's in the middle, I'll go ahead and choose change model. And in 2 seconds, the model moves. Now let's go to gaming. And back inside of VTube Studio, change model, Akari. There you go. If you want the model to move a little slower, you can do that inside of VTube Studio itself. Edit the expression hotkey that we set up. So for instance, gaming position, we're going to expand that and change the fade for seconds. So if we change this to 1.5, whenever it moves to the gaming position, it will move a little slower. So we go to just chatting. That was pretty instant. Gaming, little smoother of a transition, especially when you're switching models. So if we switch back to the cat model, this one's pretty instant, but then we go back to the one that we made a little slower, and it should look a little bit more fluid. And that's it. If you want to move your model automatically for more scenes, you can do so by going into Streamer.bot and adding more case statements. Or if a scene should use the same position as another scene, You can right click the case statement or double click it. But when you right click, go to edit switch case, and then you can type the name of the new scene that you want. So in this case, we'll use just chatting to. We'll click on add. Always remember the add button. Click on OK. And now anytime we switch to a scene that is just chatting or just chatting to, our model will immediately move to the just chatting position. Inside of OBS, if we add a new scene, we can go ahead and choose just chatting to. Add our source. I'm using Spout to capture VTube Studio. You can see the model's already in position, but we'll go to gaming, see it move down, just chatting to brings it right back. Then you could do the same thing for ending, but have the model move to the other side, which would just be another expression hotkey. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave any questions you have in the comments or any ideas for future videos that you'd like to see, or you can also reach out through VGen with a link in the description.